Hello, and thanks for joining us online today. To get the most out of your experience, you can download the Grace Church app and tap on the Sunday Morning tab. You'll be able to take notes, access the Bible, and fill out a response card. If you'd like to check out other messages from other Sundays, you can find those there as well. It's also a great way to share Grace Church with others. Well, this online experience is made possible through the generosity of people just like you at Grace Church. And if you'd like to contribute to what God is doing here, you can also do that in the app at worcestergrace.org or simply by texting Grace Church Woo to 77977. Well, thanks again and enjoy the service.
Well, good morning, Grace. My name's Billy Starkey. I'm the Grace Students Director here. And man, I am excited to be here with you on week 2 of our series, Don't Waste Your Work. And if you were here last week, you know that Pastor Nick kicked off this series, and he joked at one point that some might feel unsure about receiving work advice from a pastor. And so this morning, I just want to say, if that's you, man, I'm so glad you're here, but it's only going to get worse from here. Because not only am I a pastor, but I'm also a millennial. I know, I've heard it. Millennials don't like to work. Millennials don't want to get a job. What's this guy got to say about work? Well, hey, I just want to say this. Usually, I like to defend my fellow millennials, but I'm having a hard time right now. This week, I was studying for this message, and I came across an article that said that many millennials all over this country are going to what they call adulting classes. And what's adulting, you ask? Well, adulting is simply when a young adult begins to act like a grown-up. That's adulting. And so millennials are going to these adulting classes to learn how to adult better than they currently know how to adult, so that they can go home at the end of the day, put their feet up on their couch and say, I'm proud of myself. I adulted today. And the rest of you go, that's every day of my life. And so I just want to say, I know, I'm a millennial talking about work. I get it, but let me tell you this. You're laughing right now, but someday you're going to need help with that iPhone of yours. And when that day comes, we're going to be the ones laughing, okay? So with that out of the way, this morning we're going to talk about work. And as I think about work, the first thing that comes to mind for me is my dad. My dad worked for 30 years for the same company, driving truck, so that he could support our family. I think about my mom, who worked a full-time job and also did everything that was required to take care of our home. You know, my parents instilled this work ethic in my brothers and I that impacted our lives in really significant ways. You know, my brothers together, we've worked some really tough jobs. Some jobs like being a dairy farmer, being a football coach, being an engineer, being a factory worker, being a water treatment plant manager, even being a cement layer. Now, to be fair, those are all jobs that my brothers had. I like to think of myself as more intellectual than physical, I guess. So after working as an intern for 3 summers here at Grace, I got hired on with 1 semester left in Bible school to be the middle school director here. And so my college sweetheart, Courtney, and I got married, and then we started driving back and forth every weekend, 4 hours one way, 8 hours every weekend, so that we could go to class Monday through Friday, and we could be here on Saturday and Sunday to lead the ministry here. That's how much we believed in the next generation, and it's how much we still believe in the next generation today. And so currently, my job is one where I get to oversee our ministry to students grades 7 through college. And I know that my work experience and my work background probably looks a lot different than yours. I'm okay with that. I hope you are too, because this morning, I don't have any intention of sharing really my opinions or my thoughts about work. But what I do want to do is share what God has to say about why your work matters. And so this morning, we're going to be really launching off of what Pastor Nick taught last week. And so if you weren't here last week, I encourage you to go home today, watch this sermon online. But Pastor Nick taught us last week in week 1 of Don't Waste Your Work, that we were created to work. And that work is good, but work is also hard. And he taught us this theme verse for our series. Colossians 3:23 says this, "Whatever you do, work at it with all of your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. Pastor Nick taught us that we shouldn't worship our work, but we should view our work as worship. And so, using that truth as the launching point for our discussion today, Pastor Nick asked me to share this morning on the topic of this question: what if I hate my job? You've heard the slogans before: do what you love and love what you do. Choose a job that you love and you'll never work a day in your life. But what if you hate your job? What if you do what you hate and you hate what you do? What if you go into work every week and you feel like the country singer Johnny Paycheck? Have you ever heard this song where he's saying, you can take this job and shove it? Maybe that's how you feel when you walk into work. If that's you, you might feel like your job is mundane, maybe it's monotonous, maybe it's even meaningless. You drag yourself to work every morning. Maybe you cry on the car ride home because you'd like to quit your job, but you can't because you got bills to pay and you got kids to feed. You're just living for Friday. Just get me through the week. You're not alone. You know, a recent survey showed that only 20% of Americans 18 and older are actually fulfilled in their career. So that means that 4 out of every 5 Americans doesn't enjoy the job that they're in. So if you look around you and you pick out any 5 people, statistically that means only 1 person in that group actually enjoys their job. This matters because, like it or not, our work often defines us as people. You've experienced this. Pastor Nick's going to share more about this trap next week, the trap of identifying too closely with the work that we do. But when we don't have a good day at work, everything in our life suffers. You know what this is like. When we hate our job, the people we love tend to get the worst of us. A bad day at work affects everything, like our parenting, our health, our marriage, even a relationship with God. And so what causes a person to hate their job? There's a ton of reasons. You could give me a laundry list, I'm sure, but I just want to give us 4, I think, universal reasons we probably all can agree on. These are reasons why people would hate their job. And so we're going to start with this word: respect. People hate their job because of a lack of respect. If this is you, you don't feel like a valued contributor at your workplace. You feel like a means to an end. You feel like people don't really respect you as a person. If this is you, you might feel like your boss is the boss from that movie from 1999, Office Space. And remember this movie? Or remember this guy? You don't have to have seen the movie to know that's not a good guy to work for. You don't want to work for Lumberg. That was his name. He'd look over your shoulder. He'd call you to work in on Sundays. He'd criticize your work. Just by and large, this is not a guy who respects you as an individual. If you don't get respected at work, you might feel like Peter from that movie who said this.
So I was sitting in my cubicle today and I realized ever since I started working, every single day of my life has been worse than the day before it. So that means that every single day that you see me, that's on the worst day of my life.
What about today? Is today the worst day of your life?
Yeah.
Wow, that's messed up. I'm sorry. Go on.
Every day of your life since you began working has been the worst day. Wow, that's messed up. If that's you, you don't like your job because you don't feel respected in your job. Well, the second reason, after respect, is responsibilities. You struggle in your job because maybe you don't have the skills. Your boss hasn't given you the skills or the tools needed to succeed at what you do. Maybe your boss micromanages you and you have no responsibility at all. Maybe you just have a job that you actually love, but there's certain parts of it, certain things you have to do that you just can't stand. Next, there's resources. This one's simple. You're overworked and you're underpaid. And so you've been busting your tail the last year, looking at that promotion, and your boss gives it to someone else. And you're like, man, I just hate this job. But there's actually a reason, I think, that's greater than any of these 3 that we all can relate with. I think the biggest reason why people struggle in their careers, and that's this thing called reason. If you don't have a reason behind your responsibility, if you don't have a why behind the what that you do, it's so easy to just hate what you do. I think for so many of us, our only reason for work is the American dream. And so what's the American dream? It goes like this. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to rack up a bunch of debt. Anyone there with me? Okay, I'm right there with you. I'm going to rack up a bunch of debt. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have exactly 2.5 kids, because that's the national average. I'm going to get a house with a white picket fence, a dog named Spot, and then I'm going to work until I get to 65. And oh boy, I can't wait until I get there, because then I can finally retire. Man, then I'll be happy. But is the purpose of work really to just endure it for 65 years so then we can stop doing it someday? Or is there more purpose behind this thing that we call work? I believe there is. And I think it's important to find this, because I don't know if you know this, but you and I actually spend 1/3 of our life at work. 1/3 of our life is spent at work, and I want to show you this. And so I want to do a quick audit on our time and how we spend our time in an average week. And so here I have 21 blocks that each represent 8 hours. And so if you add up the time you have in a week, you do 24 hours times 7 days equals 168 hours. And so I have enough blocks here to represent 168 hours. And we're going to take a look at how we spend our week. And so no matter who you are, where you're from, what you do, or how much you get paid, we all get the same hours allotted to us every day. Some of you are like, can God give me another hour? And unfortunately, no, that's not going to happen. And so we all got the same amount of hours to work with. And here's the truth. You can't buy time. You can't borrow time. You can either spend time or you can waste time. And so let's look at how we spend our time in a given week. I think the first thing we have to do is look at the things that you and I don't control. And so there's certain things in life that we just don't control, but we have to spend time on. And so the first is this. If you're a human, how many humans do I got here today? I'm a student pastor, so it might get a little weird this morning, okay? Stick with me. If you're a human, doctors say that you should spend 8 hours every day sleeping. Okay, so how many of you, again, by show of hands, how many of you get 8 hours of sleep? Awesome, very good. How many of you get 7 hours? Okay, 6 hours, hardworking people right there. 5 hours, couple hands up. 4 hours, couple hands up. 3 hours. All right, if your hands are up for 3 or 4, we're going to have a prayer service right after the message is over. Come on to the front. Our pastors and staff will be right here. We'd love to counsel you. Let's just say, for the sake of illustration, that each of us spends 8 hours work or 8 hours sleeping every day. And so I'm going to give us this column labeled sleep. And so if you're quick at math, you know 8 hours of sleep for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week equals 56 hours of sleep. And that's one thing we can't control. A second thing that we can't control, if you want to provide for your family and put food on the table and pay the bills and contribute to society, you have to have a job, right? And so you've got to work. If you're able to work, then you should work. And so most of us probably have a job of some sort. Maybe for you, your job isn't a job. Maybe you're a student right now. For the rest of our time together, I encourage you to just translate in your mind. When I say work, say, okay, so now we're talking about me being a student. Maybe your job right now is that you're a stay-at-home parent. And so today, as we're continuing on, you should just go, okay, when he says work, that's talking about my current season. Maybe you're retired. You've reached that point of 65, and you're going, okay, what's next for me? Whatever that is for you, let's say that we spend 56 hours at work every week. And so I know, the paradigm is that we spend 40 hours at work, right? That's full time. But let's be honest. If you work a full-time job, you're giving more than 40 hours to your job, right? Even if you try to strictly stay at 40 hours, let's count up your drive time, you're getting ready in the morning time, you're decompressing after a bad day time, when you have to go in early, when you have to stay late, when you have to go in on the weekends. Let's just say, for the sake of example, because it's my message and I have the microphone, that you're going to work for 56 hours in a given week. Earlier this morning, someone was talking to me in the hallways and said, hey, I do taxes. I'm working 80-hour weeks right now. And so, hey, I understand there's variance here, but let's just say in general, we devote 56 hours a week to our job. And so if you're quick at math, you probably figured this out. That's a third of our life asleep. That's a third of our life at work. And that leaves one more column that I'm going to call other. This column is the 56 hours that we have left. And the beauty about this is that we get to spend these 7 blocks. We get to spend these 56 hours doing whatever we choose to do. And so what does this look like? We spend the time that we're not sleeping, we're not at work. We spend it with family. We spend it at church. We spend it on hobbies that we enjoy. We spend it on Netflix. We spend it on Facebook. We spend it on that game that we have on our iPhone that we really like. We can spend this time however we choose. And here's, I think, a problem in our thinking that sometimes we fall into. Too many people believe that their purpose for life is only found in this category. Like, the reason I'm here is in the things that I do when I'm not sleeping and I'm not at work. And so you go, my purpose is found with my family, it's found with my hobbies, it's found with what I do at church. If you were at Unleash last weekend, you know you have a purpose to fulfill here at church. But we think that our purpose is only found here. And listen, there's a lot of purpose right here. In fact, for many of us, our greatest calling in life is not going to be something we get paid to do. Not everyone gets to work their dream job. And so your greatest calling might be outside of what you do at work. But my point this morning is this. Isn't 1/3 of our life too much to waste? If you're going to spend 1/3 of your week at work, that means you spend 1/3 of your month at work. That means you spend 1/3 of your year at work, and that means you spend 1/3 of your waking, breathing life at this thing called work. What if there's purpose to be found in work? What if you could wake up in the morning and go, you know what? I don't love what I do, but I'm excited to go to work today. I think that we can all have that. And so this morning, I want to encourage us all to do something. I want to encourage each and every one of us to do this, to pursue God's purpose in our present position. To pursue God's purpose in our present position. I think each one of us needs to recognize this morning that we are where we are on purpose. So just to seal this in this morning, if you can humor me, I want you to look at someone next to you and say, I've got a purpose. Okay, come on. This isn't a library, this is church. You're never going to get there if you can't say it like you believe it. So I want you to look at someone next to you and say, I've got a purpose. I like it. I've got a reason to go to work on Monday. Yeah. See, God's calling for your life is not future tense. It's present tense. It's not for someday, it's for today. It's right here, right now. God has placed you where you are on purpose, for purpose, and with a purpose. And when you begin to see your job as God's calling for you right now, it will change the way that you see your job. So you don't have to work a dream job to be a person of purpose. And so how do you discover it? How do you discover God's purpose? Well, let me warn you first. If we're going to do this, it's going to require us to think a little bit differently. It's going to require us to not conform to the way that we always used to think about this, but we're going to have to be transformed by thinking about it differently. Now, I work with students, and so often I remind students of this truth. If you want the same results everyone else gets, it's really easy. You just have to do the same things everyone else does. But if you want different results, you're going to have to do something different. And so if you show up to work every day and you just hate your job, it's really easy to continue doing that. Just keep on doing what you're currently doing. But if you're saying, you know what, I want to find that purpose, it's going to require you to begin to think differently about the work that you have. And so this morning, here's how we're going to do this. We're going to do this based on what God has to say about our work. And so we're going to be reading out of the book of 1 Thessalonians and also the book of Ephesians, if you want to bookmark that. We're going to be looking at the teaching of Paul and what he had to say about our work and why our work matters. And so I'm going to give you 3 things this morning that I think we need to pursue if we're going to pursue God's purpose. The first is this. If you're going to pursue God's purpose, you need to pursue this thing called thankfulness. You need to pursue this thing called thankfulness. And so you might be sitting here going, Billy, I hate my job. How could I be thankful for my job? Well, listen to what Paul had to say. He said, be thankful in every circumstance, for this is God's will for you. If you're here today going, what's God's will for me? I hate my job. Well, Paul spelled it out. God's will for you is that you would be thankful in every circumstance. I think when it comes to work, a spirit of gratitude guards us from having a bad attitude. You know, this week we had a birthday party in my family for a 1-year-old. Have you ever been to a birthday party for a 1-year-old? It's awesome. You can just watch all these fun interactions happen. I love that the 1-year-old gets all the presents, but all the other kids there think that they're theirs. You know, they're like, let me open this for you, and then they just disappear with the toy. And the irony is that the 1-year-old has like a balloon, and they're just happy with that. They're like, I didn't need presents, I'm good. And so we did a cake smash for this 1-year-old's birthday party, where you put the baby on something to cover the ground, and you put a cake on the ground in front of them, and you let the baby just smash the cake and rip into it and eat the cake, and it's all messy and it's super fun. Well, I don't know if this guy got stage fright or if he was nervous, everyone was looking at him, or what it was, but this is what the scene looked like. It was rough. It was a baby shark themed party. For all the parents out there, it's stuck in your head. And so I don't know what happened, but he was not having it today. He was given this gift, this cake, but he did not enjoy it at all. Some of you are like, that's what I look like driving to work on Monday. That's my inner self. I'm just screaming. Here's the reason I show you this. Too often in life, I think that we despise the things that God has given to us that are intended to be a gift to us. We end up hating the very things that God has given us that are good for us. And so I'd encourage you this morning to view your job, even if you don't love what you do, to view it as a gift. And here's how. First, whatever job you're in, I would encourage you to find the value in your job. Find the value in what your job. If you're like, my job doesn't have any value, I'd say look again, because I think it's there. And it's really simple. If your job benefits other people, then your job has value. You might not love your job, you might not love everything you get to do, but you're working a job that's valuable because it benefits other people. But here's the second way to do that. If you work a job that allows you to pay the bills and to put food on the table for your family and to provide for those that you love the most, that's not something to despise. That's something that we should take pride in. That's something that should allow you, when Friday comes, to drive home and say, you know what, God, I don't love my work, but thank you for my job because I'm providing for my family. When you do that, you're honoring God and you're fulfilling His purpose. So view your job as a gift. Don't despise it. Be thankful for something because you're giving value to people and you're also providing for the people you love the most. And so pursue thankfulness. Second thing we need to pursue is this. We need to pursue generosity. We need to pursue generosity. Paul said this. He said, everyone must work, doing something useful with their own hands, that they may have something to share with those in need. Paul's saying, your job might be for you, but it's not about you. He's saying, if you make money from your job, it's not just for you to store up for yourself, it's actually for you to also give away to others. This week, I was meeting with a friend for dinner, And he was telling me about his job and how it's kind of a monotonous workplace. He works in a factory, so he does the same thing every day, over and over again, the same thing. And he was sharing, though, about something really cool that he did. It just kind of came up in conversation. And he said that a coworker of his, had a really difficult family situation come up, something that was really hard to deal with, and she was just really down over it. And so he told me that the next day, he decided to wake up at 4 o'clock. By the way, this is a millennial, just to give us some credit out here. This is a millennial. This guy woke up at 4 o'clock the next day, stopped in at a bakery on his way to work, bought a dozen donuts and a cake, and walked into work to this person who was having a really difficult time in life and said, hey, here you go. I just want to let you know that we care about you. And I asked him, man, why would you do that? Why would you spend your hard-earned dollars on a cake for someone else that you work with? And his answer was really simple, but so true. He said, it feels good to do something nice for other people. I believe in life, this isn't just for your work, but this is for every aspect of life. If you're in need of encouragement, the best way you can find that is when you encourage other people. See, you're not where you're at just for you. You're where you're at so you can be generous to others. And what you'll find is that your generosity will actually result in encouragement for your soul. And so you might be thinking, okay, this is good. I like this. But hey, Billy, I hardly make enough to support myself. I don't have a whole lot extra to give out to other people. Okay, that's fine. Well, generosity doesn't have to be financial. I would encourage you to do this. Think about your workplace. Each one of us can do this. This is really simple. Think about your workplace and think, what is lacking here? And so for you, maybe your workplace is a place where everyone's critical to each other. They're biting to each other. There's angry, like all staff emails being sent out to different people. They're blaming people, and that's just kind of the way people talk. And so you might go, you know what's lacking here? Words of encouragement are lacking in this workplace. Words of affirmation are lacking here. And so you might show up to work on Monday and say, you know what? I'm going to do everything I can to affirm people. I'm going to walk around and people say, hey, you know what? You're doing a great job. I just want to let you know I love working with you. I just want to let you know that you are doing awesome at what you do. If we encourage others, we'll find that it encourages us. Maybe for you, your workplace is a place that's very lonely. People don't have relationships. They just kind of do their job and move on. Maybe instead of taking your coffee break or your lunch break to just decompress from the bad day that you're having at the job you hate, see how it would encourage you to instead sit down with someone else and say, hey, how are you doing? How's life? How's your family? How can I pray for you? When you encourage others, you'll find that it will encourage you as well. Everyone else in your workplace is probably looking out for number one. I'd say, as a follower of Jesus, you should put number 2, 3, 4, and 5 all above yourself. And you'll find out there's purpose found there. And so pursue thankfulness, pursue generosity, but third, I'd encourage you to pursue excellence. Pursue excellence in your job. This is just me, but I personally believe that a Christian should be the best at what they do. Like whatever it is that you do, I say you should be the best possible version of that thing. I think that when people look at you, they should go, whoa, you're really good at that. And you should go, I know. I'm just trying to be excellent. That's what I do. Because when you choose to be excellent in your job, it will actually change the way people view you, and it'll change the way that they view your God. Paul said this, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. He said, make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. You should mind your own business and work with your hands, just as we told you. And check this out. So that your daily life may win the respect of outsiders, and so that you will not be dependent on anybody. Be excellent in your work, because your work matters, and how you do your work matters. Choose to be excellent, because it allows you to win the respect of outsiders. When Paul used that word, he was referring to people that don't know Jesus. And so that tells me that your current job is not a placeholder until God brings something else along. Your current job is actually the mission field that God has planted you in to do His work. See, too many of us, I believe, have placed an imaginary line between our secular life and our spiritual life, where we go Monday through Friday, we grind at our jobs just to get through to the weekend, and then we come to church on Sundays and get a little bit of Jesus and do our kingdom work, and then when Sunday's over, we cross over the line, and now I'm back at work, and I'm just grinding at my job, and then I'm going to cross that guard. Can't wait till Sunday so I can get back to doing God's work here at church. We need to erase that line, because church is not somewhere that you go. It's not something that you do. Church is who you are. Grace is a church that meets in thousands of locations wherever you go. That means when you walk out of these doors today, you're not leaving church, you are the church. And so that tells me that you're not an employee, you're a missionary. And you don't have a job, you've got a calling. And that calling is to reach people who are far from God and bring them close to God. That's why your work matters. Because when you choose excellence in your workplace, it will tell people something about the God that you serve. But when you choose to say, you know what, I hate this job, I'm just going to show up late, I'm going to slack off, do the bare minimum, that shows people something about who you serve too. And so this morning, I'd encourage us all as we head to work on Monday to pursue thankfulness, pursue generosity, and pursue excellence in the work that we do. And I want to share a story with you this morning about a gentleman in our church named Leon Hilty, who has found the purpose for the work that he does. I think it's going to really benefit each of us. You'll watch this story.
My name is Leon Hilty. I'm the owner of 3D Meats along with my wife, and we operate a custom slaughter and retail facility here in Dalton. I mean, it is what it is. When you slaughter an animal, you harvest it. There are certain things that happen. And blood is the life flow for not only animals and humans too, but that's part of life. You know, not every job like this is for everybody. It takes a particular type of person that I would say that would enjoy the meat industry. I started with my dad, like I say, 40 years ago, and I've been very blessed to have his work ethic and be basically trained in the business by him. So I just look at I'm very fortunate to be in the business of something that I enjoy to do and actually learned it all from him. It's all more of an attitude every morning when I get up. You know, how I face the day depends on whether I have a good day or a bad day. But there's always circumstances in life that can change that. But if your attitude is of gratitude, that you are thankful for what you have and what you are capable to do each day, to provide to the general public as a service. We just count ourselves as being very, very blessed to be able to do that. Our goal and our mission sort of here is to be able to create an atmosphere that employees enjoy to work, give a good, wholesome product to the community, and if we do those things, we're giving glory and honor to God, that we are being a business with integrity and that is trustworthy, so that we can honor God in all the products that we produce and serve to the public for human consumption. We've tried to do that and relay that to all of our employees, that I enjoy what I do, and we try to make it fun and interesting throughout the day, because any job can become boring and mundane. But that's sort of been our heartbeat on what we've tried to do. And it's worked so far.
Amen, man. I love that story. That's a guy who has a reason to go to work on Monday, right? He's pursuing thankfulness, he's pursuing generosity, pursuing excellence in what he does, and discovering that there's purpose to be found there. I think Leon really exemplifies what I would call choosing to be a thermostat in your workplace. Something I love about thermostats is that every home has that one person who controls the thermostat. You could point them out right now. You could just go, okay, that's the one. If you're having trouble finding out who it is, it's the same person who follows you around the house and turns off the lights you left on. Just follow that trail and you'll discover this person. And so in my home, That's my wife, Courtney. She controls the thermostat. And I'm just saying, I have a philosophy that when it's cold, you turn it up, and when it's hot, you turn it down. But no, 65 degrees all the time. That's what we get. Love you, honey. When you're gone, I turn it to 72, so. The thermostat exists for the purpose of setting the temperature, right? It sets the temperature either up or down. I think many of us walk into work instead like a thermometer. And so what's a thermometer do? A thermometer just reads the temperature and reacts to it. And so when we're living like a thermometer, we just show up to work and we go, you know what, I'm not going to really rock the boat. I'm going to put my head down. I'm just going to do my same thing every day. And I'm not going to really try to change anything. I'm just going to read the culture of my workplace, and I'm just going to respond to that and just act accordingly. But I think that Jesus is calling us to be more like a thermostat in our workplace. Someone who walks in and says, you know what, I can't change everything about my job, but I can control some things about my job. And so I'm going to show up. I'm not just going to read the temperature. I'm going to set the temperature. I'm going to be the person who changes the culture in my workplace. And so that when people look at me, they go, wow, they had a reason to show up to work today. See, there is purpose to be found in your job, even a job you hate. And so recognize this morning that there is a big difference between waiting and wasting. If you're in a job that you hate or a season that's difficult, it's okay to say, you know what, I don't love this, but I am waiting on God to show me what's next. That is awesome if that's where you're at. I'd encourage you to think about things that way. But what we can't do is waste the season that we're in. 1/3 of our lives is too much to have just be mundane, monotonous, and meaningless. You have purpose to show up to work. And who knows? Maybe one day God's going to give you your dream job where you get paid a lot of money to do the thing that you love to do. I would love that for all of us. But I don't know if that's going to happen, and neither do you. But here's what I do know. When it comes to God's economy, it's obedience now that leads to opportunity later. It's production now that leads to the promotion. And Jesus himself even said, he who is faithful with little will be trusted to be faithful with much. And so while God's not promising you your dream job or anything of that sort, he is guaranteeing that if you're faithful in this season that you're in, he will give you opportunities to live for him and glorify him wherever you're at. And so I've been frustrated recently with something. I know this might be kind of feel like a side note, but I've been frustrated with something. And maybe you can relate. I've been getting these phone calls all the time from numbers that I don't know. And I tend to not pick them up because if I don't know the number, I'm like, they'll leave a voicemail if it's important, or if it's not, I guess they won't call back. But sometimes I pick up this phone call. I'm like, I know I shouldn't, but I pick it up, and you know what it is. It's a robot on the other side. And I'm like, oh gosh, I fell for it again. And they talk to you, and I've been getting these calls. I've had credit card offers. I've had offers to open up a bank account. I've won cruises. I won a vacation to Hawaii. I've even had a deposed prince from a foreign country offer me millions of dollars if I just help him get to America. Like, these are the sort of spam calls I've been getting. And it frustrates me because I know I've got a call, but I don't know who's calling me. And I think some of us this morning are frustrated with life because we know that we were created for more than what we're currently experiencing. We're frustrated because there's a little something inside of us that says, yeah, there's purpose for you, but you're not getting there yet. And I think the reason you might be frustrated in life is because you know that there's a calling on your life. There's purpose for your life, but you don't know who's calling you. So let me tell you about him. The Bible describes him as a faithful father who created you to do good works that he prepared for you. He didn't just create you and leave you on your own to figure it out. No, he created you, and he's calling you to himself every day. And he loves you so deeply. and cares so deeply that you would discover your purpose, that he even sent his son Jesus to die on a cross. Because you and I have this problem called sin. And where our sin separates us from God, Jesus on the cross is the bridge that allows us to have a relationship with God. And when you know the one who calls you, then you can finally begin to discover your calling. But you'll never be a person of purpose until you know the one who's given you the purpose. And so for some of us this morning, your next step right now might be to get to know the one who's called you. And so this morning, if that's you, if you're saying, man, I need to know that God, I'd encourage you to take this program you received when you walked in, and inside of it's a response card. You can fill that out, and at the bottom, there's a checkbox that says, today, I receive God's love and forgiveness for me through Jesus Christ. And if you just check that box, leave it at the end of your row, we're going to reach out to you this week because we'd love to talk to you about what it means to follow Jesus. But for all of us, whatever season we're in, whether it's a job we love or a job we hate or not a job at all, we need to pursue God's purpose in that position. And we can do that when we choose to be thankful for our job, to be generous through our job, and to be excellent in our job. And when we do that, we discover the purpose that's been waiting there all along. When we do this, we've got a reason to go to work on Monday. And we fulfill God's purpose for our present position. Let's pray. God, thank you that you've given us purpose. Thank you that we're not just here to live a meaningless life. God, you have created us on purpose, for a purpose, and with a purpose. And even in a season that's difficult, there's still purpose to be found there. So God, help us to discover that this morning. God, we know that it's only found through relationship with you. And so, Jesus, we're asking you to lead us and guide us into the reason that we're here. Thank you for what you did for us so that we can know you. Thank you for what you do for us every day so that we can discover you more and more. We pray this all in your name. Amen.
Well, I hope you were inspired and encouraged by what you've experienced here today. At Grace Church, we believe that there's always a next step, and I trust that God is beginning to reveal your next step to you now. If that's the case, would you share that with us? You can do that on the response card right on the Grace Church app. We would love to pray with you and help you take that next step. Well, thanks again for choosing to connect with us online, and have a great day.